Jeannie said that's a sign of perfect day.
Here we go, yes, sir.
Are you ready, John?
Almost. Almost what?
Battery's going out on the way up here.
They changed my software on me again, and I'm.
Well, that reminds me. I didn't.
You got paper.
Oh yeah, they're back there. Will you go grab 5, please?
Got it on here.
I brought one in, Jeannie. I'm okay.
4.
I didn't know I used it for a scratch pad on the back.
You're just fine.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes, sir.
The elevator inspector. He'll be here in the door in an hour and a half or so.
I fixed the date.
So whatever's going on.
Look on, is it 2016 date in there?
I got one, Jeannie. Thank you.
Knocking them over. Where's yours? Oh, right there.
I have no idea. It's hiding. Thank you. You what?
You have an issue with the
Thank you, madam.
I got a ruling from the fire marshal that said it's okay. But a very own contractor, sub, well, they got a company that does a service out there, didn't know he's gonna have a recall. So we've got the state elevator man coming. So we've got to have one now. But anyway, the fire marshal said, no, here's your exclusion, here's your.
Dale, I'm ready when you are.
Okay. So we're just mentioning that elevator inspector is coming through. He'll be here an hour and a half, and I'll go out and pick up the issue with him. Then come back and cry. Good morning, all. We are officially in session, the Iron County Board of County Commissioners. It is Monday, the 26th day of February, 2008. We'll start this morning by asking Dan to offer an invocation, and John, if you'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Dear Father in heaven, we are grateful for this beautiful day, for the opportunity we have to meet here. We're thankful for the snow and the moisture that we've received recently, and give thee thanks for this great blessing, and pray that we may continue to receive moisture that will benefit this valley and our county. Grateful for the freedoms that we enjoy and for the opportunity we have to participate in this meeting this day. We invite thy Spirit to please be here to oversee the proceedings of this meeting. Bless that those items which will be discussed and decided may be addressed with wisdom and fairness. We're grateful for our leaders, for our commissioners. We pray for them. We ask you to be with us throughout this day and throughout this new week. And we give these thanks and say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Dan.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, each one. This morning, the first item of business is to change the chair of the commission. It's overdue. It's time that we got it done. I've drug it out wanting to get through the open house, so it's a very personal issue of mine, I guess. Greedy, whatever. So, motion is ordered to change the chair.
I move that we appoint Commissioner Michael Blake as chair for 2018 in keeping with our rotation every year.
Second.
Motion and second is to appoint Commissioner Blake as the chairman for 2018. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye, it is approved. We will do the musical chairs. I'll just take my chair and I won't have to adjust.
There you go.
Warm seat to the hot seat.
All right. Let's start out. We've got department reports this morning. Looks like the clerk is on deck first.
All right. I really didn't do it on purpose, but so far I've only got the one view. I couldn't get the other camera working yet, but I'll keep working on it as the meeting goes on. But that way they can't see me on the stream right now. So first and foremost, our budget report, we came in 94% on the clerk budget and 85% on elections. Not too many surprises there. We did have a few extra expenses from the move. On the odd years, we do get some of that money back on elections from the municipalities, but that's not reflected here. This is just where the expenses are accounted for. As far as operations go, the office is doing rather well. We've had a lot of activity already with elections this year, with the Count My Vote signature collection initiative that puts a bit of pressure on our office as far as signing up candidates and then verifying their signatures. And that process is in full swing. We've had 4 candidates for sheriff, 4 candidates for attorney, 1 for auditor, 1 for clerk, 2 for Commission A, 3 for Commission B, 1 for State House 72, 1 for State House 71, and 1 for State Senate that have indicated they're seeking signatures. The filing period will be March 9th to the 15th. In terms of marriage licenses, we were just, I wanted to just give a report over several years. 2016, we had 443 marriage licenses. 2017, we had 472, and so far this year we've had 41, and we're on track to. I think we will be proportionate to the growth of the university, I would assume. All right, let me see if I can decipher this. In 2016, we collected a total of $3,240 in passport fees and pictures. In 2017, that number jumped to $20,732.50, and that was we've reported on that a few times in commission meeting.
What did that include, John?
Just
Passport, marriage license, what?
No, just passports, and then passport pictures. And I don't know if it was just the Cedar City location or if it was kind of part of that 10-year cycle or the new administration, but there was just a bull rush on passports. And so far, we've already collected $4,400 in 18, which is 25% more than, or 125% of what we collected in 16. So I was curious to see what would happen when we moved back to the courthouse, but it hasn't let up all that much. Granted, we had one family of 11 come in, and so they tipped the scales. They were a quarter of that so far. So
$20,000 a year, that's a lot of money for a passport.
yeah, and that's just our fees. The fee that goes to the Department of State is significantly higher. If you get a regular passport, it's $110 that goes to the Department of State, and then the fee that we collect as the agency is $25. If you get a picture with us, it's $10. There are a few different variations. You can get just a card only, which is limited, or you can do an expedite fee, which significantly increases it. But we generally assess that as people come in and figure out, when are they traveling, what are their plans, what do they want, and we're guided by the Department of State's regulations on that. Anyway, we're looking forward to a good year. We've got elections coming up. Just last week, the legislature approved the appropriations bill, which included $4 million for our for voting machines and the ongoing expense. And so, in the near future, I'm going to be asking you to for that half of the. We talked during my budget hearings about setting aside half of the anticipated expense, and what they've done at the state is more than half. And so I'm thinking rather than wait until 2019, I'd like to try and move forward with the new election equipment this year, where the state has appropriated that money and we waited to set aside during budget time. So, any questions?
On elections, did the
Pardon?
legislature decide that signature gathering would not happen next year?
I just got word of that this morning. I hadn't been paying attention to the news. I took my boy snowmobiling on Saturday, and I guess that was an action by the Republican Party. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that is going to play out.
Paul, do you know anything about that?
I wasn't at the meeting. I can talk to a little bit. The state. My understanding is the state central committee passed a bylaw yesterday that, or Saturday, not yesterday, but Saturday, that talks about. This goes clear back to a meeting that was held November 15th with Gary Herbert and the state. I was at that state central committee in 2015, November. And Governor Herbert said, I should have vetoed SB 54. It's become very divisive in the party. And I would encourage the state central committee, the Republican Party of Utah, to sue the state of Utah. This needs to be decided in the courts. And I suspect what the state central committee did on Saturday just moves that forward quicker.
I think it went so far as to say if you gather signatures next year, they'll kick you out of the party. I don't understand how that can happen. Did I miss something?
I don't know all the details. I haven't read it, but I just know that's what I've heard is that it'll.
That TV's report that.
I don't know all the details.
Well, I read it didn't necessarily tie it directly to signatures, but it was like the party can decide who they want and who they don't want.
They can determine who, if you're Republican enough to stay in the party.
Okay, that's the secret right there. Anyway, sorry. Thanks.
No, that's okay. I can't speak to that anymore because I didn't hear about it. But any other questions for me on the clerk's office?
Filing day is 9th to the 19th?
9th to the 15th. Yeah.
15th. Okay.
I've had a lot of, last week was kind of weird. I had 3 different people approach me with disdain for the post office and their passport service. So they were 3 unrelated. So I directed them all to you. It sounds like the post office is really making it more difficult. So,
well, we do allow just walk-ins. We don't require an appointment,
right?
And then yeah. So the post office does require an appointment, and we're fortunate we don't typically have the lines that the post office has,
right? Because
they have a line for just postal service stuff. So
right, it's a miserable place. Several incidents there lately that were a mess. So I'm glad we have a place to direct people for that service.
Well, it seems to have worked out
much easier.
Anyway, thank you.
All right. Human resources, Adrian. Next up to bat.
Good morning, commissioners. I've got kind of a streamlined human resources quarterly department report here. For 2017, the HR department for the county was on track budget-wise. So for the year, we had a minor surplus of just under $8,000, which equates to about a little under 5% for the year. And then for 2018, so far, we're also well within budget, so everything's on track that way. don't have any current or anticipated budget issues that will arise. As for workload, since my last report, we've posted, interviewed, and hired for the following positions: a part-time assessor, a DMV deputy assessor, a part-time sheriff animal shelter tech, full-time sheriff deputy, full-time sheriff bailiff deputy, a full-time roads maintenance worker, and currently we have the following open positions that we're currently actively seeking to fill, and that includes full-time corrections RN medical supervisor, a full-time sheriff patrol deputy roster is just recently opened up, as well as a full-time corrections deputy roster. And then we also have a part-time bailiff position that we just have continuous recruiting, but no immediate needs there. Recruiting and personnel needs are being met, even on the public safety side, which has sometimes been a challenge to fill positions. We've been very lucky, very fortunate to get a number of very good candidates. We're being able to create what I feel like are strong rosters. Really the only position that we're currently finding a challenge to recruit and fill is that medical supervisor position for the jail, but we're pursuing a number of different avenues to get that.
What's the issue with that?
You know what? That's a good question. I mean,
Pay or the availability?
My first impression was I thought it was pay, but I did some research and kind of looked around the other parts of the state, and I think we're somewhat competitive. And I just think it's a unique environment, maybe for somebody in the medical field, that one thing that's unique to us is that or somewhat unique, I shouldn't say completely unique, but is that corrections, like post-certification, in addition to the RN bachelor's degree certification. So I think it might be a combination of all of those things. It kind of narrows our scope a little bit when we say that they've got to be correction certified. It might need to be something that we reevaluate. It's not a common requirement around, even though pay is somewhat similar. Other jails are usually not requiring their medical staff to be post-certified. So it might be, I think it might really be tied to that.
Is that not a state statute?
No, it's not specific to that position, as long as they have adequate staffing around them, if that makes sense. So
is it something we can eliminate from our job description?
That's what we're currently looking into as an option, and it might be something I bring to you in the near future if we, we're looking at a couple of different avenues that we might be able to go to. Right now, we don't have Lieutenant Cuthers, the jail commander. She's very comfortable with how we've got it staffed currently, because we have Deputy Doug Johnson that's gone back to medical and is currently acting as the interim supervisor. He's very experienced. He's been involved with the medical services there for a long time, and she says he's doing a great job. The issue there is that he just doesn't have his RN certification, even though he seems to have the other skills and knowledge, requisite for the position. He just doesn't have that RN certification. So
let's actually pursue the elimination of that post requirement on the job description then.
Okay, I'll report on that. We'll see what options are, and I'll get back to you and see what we can get figured out.
Do you know off the top of your head what the starting is in that position, salary-wise?
I can pull it up on my phone. I can't remember. I got too many numbers in my head.
That's all right. I was curious. So are we competitive among other correctional facilities, or are we competitive among nursing salaries?
All I've done is reach out to some of the other HR directors that are at the county level in terms of what they're paying their RN certified staffing.
Gotcha.
And we're, you know, if we kind of carve out what we have to carve out kind of that Wasatch Front. I mean, just obviously that's not apples to apples, but in terms of kind of, you know, the outskirts, you know, we're competitive there. But I didn't extend that to the other.
22 range or the 20? Where were we?
I want to say it's 26, about 2650 to start.
28 something.
But let me verify. Like I say, I'll just pull it up right off our county website and see what it is there. But again, I think there's maybe a few different options for us to go in terms of seeing if we can nail that down a little bit. So, but again, I'm in close contact with Lieutenant Cuthers, and it's just and she just continues to report that, you know, they're in a good spot. So I guess it allows us a little bit of, you know, we don't feel like we got to do it right away, you know, so that we can try to do it the right way with, you know, making sure that they're correct decisions and you know, that we go about it the right way. Just so that's good. It's not like we're pressing and in a bind. We're covered and covering everything well.
Let me throw one more question out there real quick. Are we statutorily, required? Is that required to be an RN position?
We're required to have an RN presence a certain number of days, a certain number of hours per week.
Gotcha.
We don't actually have to have a full-time presence there. That's something that's another thing that we're looking into, is we might, if it's beneficial in terms of from a budget, you know, viewpoint, we might look at some ways to contract that in terms of taking outside, and then maybe letting Deputy Johnson continue in the interim and adjusting that pay scale a little bit to account for the lack of the RN certification, but let him cover the you know, some of the required duties, you know, such as scheduling and overseeing some of the you know, the less experienced staff. But then if we can contract an RN to come in, you know, 2, 3, 4 days a week, a certain number of hours, that might be something that we meet the statute, or, you know, or the kind of the
Sure. And
I
I know a lot of RNs, and I know that there's a lot of RNs that are looking for a little something on the side,
Yeah.
you know, some part-time duty here and there to supplement their income.
Yeah, and that's exactly what some of my thoughts were, and I actually talked to Lieutenant Cuthers, and we kind of brainstormed a little bit about that last week. So is something we're actively looking into to see if it might be a good fit.
Great.
So Adrian, what's the function of an RN? If you can be called in and show up 2 or 3 hours later, I expect the need is there on an emergency basis.
You know, Commissioner, I think it's from my understanding, and it might, and I might be a little off base. I think it is more related to the disbursement of certain medications.
That's the way you see it, Mike?
Yeah.
And not necessarily, because I think the staff that we have there around the clock are more emergency response in case somebody gets injured or becomes violently ill, or, you know, but I think it's some of the guidelines that get a little bit touchy in terms of how they disperse certain, you know.
Your point makes
Right.
sense. Have somebody come in for 2 hours a day to handle the meds.
Right, and I know it is tied to the medication, and the jail staff are all pretty adequately trained first responders. An EMT is way better than a nurse anyway when it comes to an emergency situation.
See, and that's what we have. All of our guys are supposed to be advanced EMT, and then so it's kind of a little different skill set that they kind of diverge a little bit in terms of a nurse and EMT. But
Right.
Will you do a study and let us know what the fiscal cost is? That the note's going to be on that.
Definitely.
If we do the dual
Yeah.
situation there.
yeah, that's definitely the, you know, the at the core of all of it is we want to make, you know, if there's a benefit and we meet the need, that's what and that's currently what I'm looking into. So I'll be able to get you some numbers and maybe a few different options. So we're working on it. As for training, I've recently had kind of the preliminary discussions with Johnny Miller with USIP. very interested and something that we're going to pursue in terms of scheduling him to come and do some supervisor training for department heads, elected officials, and other supervisors. I don't have a date or anything. We're still trying to match calendars, and but we had a good discussion. I think it'd be beneficial. It's been a number of years. I think he did a similar type of training. It's my understanding maybe 3-4 years ago. But it would, again, kind of like a supervisor, so it's more leadership skills, refresher on ethics training, some of the things that I think it'd be a good opportunity for us to get together and have a good discussion and target some areas where we can improve as a county and as a whole, and then also kind of by department. So should have some more information and some more details coming out on that within the coming weeks. Another training related issue that we have right now is Betsy. She and I have worked together. She's expressed an interest in getting what's referred to as SHRM certified. SHRM stands for a Society for Human Resource Management. It's a good program. It's widely used, widely recognized in the HR field. The certification is pretty in depth. It takes a number of months and some serious study time, and but certainly is something that helps an HR professional sharpen their skills and knowledge base. And I'm glad that she's undertaking that. And something that she's doing not only on her personal time, but then also using within reason some downtime to study and train for that. It's a good undertaking. And it'll be a benefit to the county. And then we're just looking at other opportunities as they arise. But that's it in terms of training. Some of the miscellaneous items or things to report on. Recently completed a report containing employee turnover ratios. This is what I emailed to you this past week, just for some numbers to review. And that was encouraging, actually, that the turnover ratios for the county, I was able to go back to 2011 with the data that I had easily available. And it showed me that turnover ratios are actually trending positively. And for 2017, the ratio was actually 10.73%, which is actually excellent. It's most organizations, most HR professionals, they target 10% as an optimal turnover rate. And so with us being at 10.7, that's a very positive indicator and good news for us. On average, nonprofits and government organizations tend to be in the 14 to 16% range for comparison. My next step in that process is actually I'm going to go department by department and kind of see if I can break down those numbers a little bit more to see if there's some areas where we might be able to dig into further. If there's certain departments or areas that are having a little higher turnover than normal, or at least identify the ones that are very strong. But again, it's kind of a good project, but good information that I'll have some more information going forward in the coming weeks that I can provide to you. During the month of March, we'll be rolling out the first activity for the Iron County Healthy Living Wellness Program. This is something that we budgeted for the first time in 2018, where we are kind of targeting quarterly activities to encourage wellness and participation by county employees. So it's kind of an experiment to a degree, but we have some ideas, and the first one was actually going to be an activity that's called Activity Bingo Challenge. It's and I'm going to be sending out some information to encourage participation at the employee level, and also some ways for us to have some fun with it, department by department. So that's targeted for March, and again, some more information will be coming out soon. And there's, the last miscellaneous item is just we continue to have. There's a few policy revisions that nothing pressing, but certain things that are just needing to be brought up to date, and they're just kind of side projects that are ongoing, but continuing to work on. In summary, HR related functions for the county are progressing and improvements are being made. Workers' compensation claims continue to trend well. Employee retention continues to improve, and unemployment claims are within reasonable levels. I do want to mention how grateful I am for cooperation and communication that I continue to receive, not only at the supervisor level, but I welcome and view very positively even the employee interaction that I have. That I've always had just an open door policy. It's the best way in terms of what I do to kind of keep a pulse on what's going on, but it's been very positive, and again, I appreciate that communication. Again, I continue to strongly believe that that we've got great employees here at the county, supervisors that care and want to do better, and employees that are skilled and like I say, I think very highly of them, and want to continue to work with everybody just to problem solve and to get better and better. So, and I think we're making good progress. Very happy, and but there are certainly things that we can target and improve as we move forward. But with that, unless you have questions for me.
I've just got one. Well, this is will you remind me, I had an issue come up over the weekend, a question regarding department or county vehicle use for outside employment, during outside employment. And I think we had talked about this early on in the year. I can't remember. It seems like we had a conversation, but will you just remind me or get with me, and I just want to clarify some policy type stuff just
okay
while I'm thinking about it.
We do have a very in-depth vehicle
right
use policy, so I'm sure it's outlined because it's very detailed. And
I remember that we did, and I know that we addressed it, that we discussed it earlier in the year, but I had a couple of folks approach me over the weekend with some concerns.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'll get with you.
Great.
We have another issue I need to visit with you about after the meeting too.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. John.
Thank you. I think there's two there. I'll get one to Mr. Edwards over here then.
Do this, my OCD's kicking in, I'm sorry. Don't like it.
Thank you, sir.
Well, good morning, Honorable Commissioners. I appreciate being here this morning and giving you this report. My 2017 final budget report was included in my annual report that you received latter part of December. And this is the top part of this is what's been spent so far this year, and that we are about 15% of our way in through the year and have about 8% my budget expended. I think we're okay there as far as the budget goes. If you see any questions or concerns that you have, please let me know. I did receive last week an alert that our subscription for our satellite phones, these are not the ones that we've just placed. These are the ones that I have personally. I and Chief Phillips carry. The fee for that that will go up $6 a month. So it'll be an increase of about $144 annually for that. And right now, I think my budget is such that that'll be easily absorbed into the budget. So I'm not requesting any change in the budget at this point. And we'll just keep an eye on that and watch that as those fees come into play and go from there. So with that, I'm going to just drop down to the items of interest. We're currently holding a CERT course at SUU. We have about 31 students enrolled in that course, and that course will be completed next Saturday, the 3rd, with a disaster exercise. We just had a workshop entitled Surviving Nuclear Terrorism. It was put on by Terry Meisner. We had 32 individuals that attended that. It was open to the public, had great interest there, and it was well attended and well done by Mr. Meisner. On April 18th, at about 4:12 a.m., a twin-engine Beechcraft will crash into the 2 million gallon fuel tank out at Holly Energy and set it on fire. At least that's how the LEPC tabletop exercise will start. So what's that? I'm sorry?
Where?
We hold the LEPC at the Heritage Center in room 5 and 6. So we're just going to have the tabletop in there. The thrust of that is to let the members of the LEPC see how different organizations and agencies come together when we do have a large-scale disaster like that, and the communications that goes on, those types of things. It'll be fun to have that occur, and it gives us an exercise that we can count towards one of my grants also. Then on April 18th, NOAA will be coming down. Mr. Barjonovic from the Weather Service will come down and conduct the Storm Spotter Workshop. Again, we do this annually as part of a grant requirement, and we'll open that up to the public also and begin advertising that next month in March. Then the 2018 review of the Emergency Operation Plan is finalizing. I have to meet with Mr. Edwards for a few minutes over the final part of one of those sections, and then after that we'll seek signatures, and I'll be back next month with approval of the new or the revised 2018 Emergency Operations Plan, and have your signatures, and then submit that as part of a grant also. And then, of course, the Great Utah Shakeout is coming up on the 19th of April. I haven't really put together a plan for that yet. I've just been busy with other things, but we will participate in that Great Shakeout and invite all department heads and employees to participate in that Great Shakeout as part of Iron County's emergency plan. Other than that, gentlemen, do you have any questions?
Remind me the date and time of the tabletop.
The tabletop is April 18th, and the exercise will begin at 11 a.m. We'll have a brief introduction as we pull the LEPC together, let them get their lunch, and then we'll begin the exercise. The exercise will last about an hour and a half.
I was thinking we would start at 4
4 a.m.
4 a.m.
That's when the crash, and we had the crash happening at 4 a.m. so that we affect the shift change at AMPAC.
Okay.
And so we're this being a tabletop exercise, a lot of it is done just at the table. Who would we notify? How are they notified? Do we have those phone numbers in place? And then we bring the players to the table, and they will explain what their responsibilities are. Mountain Fuel, Union Pacific Railroad, AMPAC's on board with this, and so it's just going to be a good in-depth exercise to show how many individuals will be involved. Sheriff's Office, the police department, Holly Energy, of course.
Well, thanks for your efforts on that. That's going to be a good meeting.
Yeah, it should be. We will defer the normal committee meetings that we have so that we can get through this exercise in a timely fashion. That'll be the thrust of the meeting that day.
Excellent.
Great, thank you.
John, now we're through the construction phase of multiple buildings. It's time we get with Lester and we start talking about the EOC build out.
I emailed him a couple of weeks ago about that, and he never responded, but I realized they've been very busy completing the finishing touches on this building, and that's just fine.
So we'll get together sometime. It won't be this week, but
thank you. I appreciate that.
See, map some direction to move forward, because we stocked it with studs and sheetrock, I think carpet, ceiling tile. Anyway, we've got a lot of material in there that
I think the one of the biggest problems will be cutting the floor to put the electrical in the floor when we have business going upstairs. That I'm sure Les will work that out as far as after hours or whatever, so that we don't.
We'll want to minimize that floor cut.
Yeah.
We may not put everything in you want.
Oh, that's. I'll take whatever I can get, Commissioner. Thank you. Any other questions, gentlemen? Thank you.
No,
Appreciate
thank
your
you.
time.
Economic development.
And graphic arts design man.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. 2018 has been a whirlwind so far, and I appreciate support that I've received from you thus far. I'm going to start out today just updating you on what's happened since the Governor's 25K Rural Jobs Initiative meeting that we had in the Governor's office on January the 19th. Appreciate Commissioners Adams and Blake for being able to be there. We missed you. Commissioner Brinkerhoff, and understand you had very important matters to attend to, but it was a good meeting. I felt like it was, and I'm seeing since then that the effects of the meeting have been good because there has been follow-up, and that's what I wanted to talk about this morning. But in that meeting, we had Governor Herbert and some of his top staff. We had representatives from Governor's Office of Economic Development, Economic Development Corporation of Utah, World Trade Center, and then our group that we brought. We discussed kind of the current economic state of the county. When compared to the rest of the rural counties, we're actually looking really, really good, and we have some great potential for this jobs initiative. Talked about some of the challenges that we face. We talked about greatest opportunities, the vision that we have for the future, and then how the state can help us. And we had several things that we asked for some assistance on, and I've put in the notes that I've given you some of the feedback that I've got from them. Some of the things have been challenging. We've got some things accomplished here in the county as far as designating Iron County as an enterprise zone, as far as designating the county as a recycling market development zone. But I've found as I've talked to businesses and tried to help businesses with those programs that beyond just a brief overview of what the programs are, the implementation has been difficult. So we asked GoEd to help simplify those things so I can have something to take to the businesses that will help them through those programs if they qualify. And they're working on that. Nan Anderson is from the Governor's Office of Economic Development's Office of Rural Development, and she's out of Wayne County, and she's been in contact with me regularly since that meeting. We're working at scheduling some local trainings here in Iron County to deal with those and some other programs that they offer. We talked about the Utah Film Commission is very specific. If someone wants to work with them, they've got a one-page deal that just says this is what we've got and this is how you go about implementing it, and that's what we've requested, something that we can just walk through with our businesses that is a little more self-explanatory. What we've seen is we've had to go to different people in the Utah Tax Commission and different areas to do that, so we're just trying to streamline that for our businesses. We also spoke about some training that's available through the International Economic Development Council. They do some things that are very specific to business retention and expansion, especially in rural areas. I went to one of those trainings in Las Vegas a few weeks ago, found it was very helpful, and recommended that GoEd look into bringing those back. I think the best success that we can have in Iron County and in rural Utah is to support the existing companies that we have. Most companies want to grow, and we need to help them find out what types of obstacles there might be in the way and help them to connect the right dots to be able to work with their plans. We have good things in place with the business resource centers, small business development centers. We have a wealth of opportunities and tools in in the county, and we just want to help all of our businesses have access to those things. So we're working on that. We also covered several of the Office of Regional Development's programs, including the Rural Fast Track Grant. Right now, Iron County, with the exception of Cedar City, qualifies for Rural Fast Track Grant, and that's basically a match grant for smaller businesses to acquire equipment or improve their property or their buildings based on new job creation. And we've had several of those in Iron County. In fact, I visited with one of our local businesses just a couple of weeks ago in Enoch at a project that could help this company potentially double in size and scope in the state. And sometimes it's just a little bit of assistance and local incentive that can help those companies to do that. So those are the types of things that we're working with Nan Anderson on. Another thing that came up in that meeting has been talked about throughout the state, and the Silicon Slopes, the high-tech areas in northern Utah County and southern Salt Lake County, those companies are at the point now that they've run into some real labor issues. And the discussion has been had that those companies looked into the rural parts of the state for employees that could work remotely. And those discussions have begun. I know that Washington County met with the folks from Silicon Slopes recently. Becky Page and Chanel Flores at GoEd are helping us set up a meeting at the end of March to be able to make those same connections and find out exactly what it is that the Silicon Slopes companies are needing as far as workforce development, what we can do in our county to link to those companies. They've got a program that's relatively new they're wanting to roll out this year, changing Silicon Slopes to Silicon Spokes. And a lot of that work can be done remotely. And it can also help us. I mean, we already have a great tech community here in Iron County. We have a Tech Up group that's been meeting for almost 10 years monthly, and they've done a lot of networking and things on their own. And we're just looking at helping that group work with the Silicon Slopes group and others in the state to promote some tech and some remote work here in Iron County. So you'll probably be hearing from Becky or Chanel at GoEd. You'll probably be invited to that meeting. I believe
this time and date firm that you have on there?
That's what I have right now, the 27th, from noon to 1:30 up in Lehigh. If that changes, I'll let you know, but I just got this on Friday, I believe, that this came through. One of the items of follow-up we actually began, actually there were two of them, but I'll mention one now. We're finding that some of the states that we compete with when it comes to company recruitment, Texas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, some of those states are extremely competitive with incentives to the point that they give away properties and things like that. We'll never do that. That doesn't make sense for us. But we have some good post-performance programs. We asked if we could get some assistance putting together a matrix for local incentives, something that would consider amount of capital investment in the county, number of jobs, the wages that would be paid for those jobs, and to kind of give us a matrix or ballpark to shoot at when we're working with one of those companies, so that we're not negotiating just cold, a cold case negotiation. It's kind of where us and where most of the counties in the state have been. So EDC Utah sent a team down on Friday. They met with our Economic Development Committee. We started with that process, but what we'd like to do is just put together some type of matrix. If you've got X investment, X jobs, such amount of wages, that these are the types of things that would be reasonable, that would be important to our county. So I'll keep you informed as that discussion moves along. That will be really helpful to us. That's something we've actually been asking for a long time, and EDC Utah has a staff member that was doing similar things back in the southeast, and so he's going to be helping us with that. And then another discussion that's come up along with the 25,000 Jobs Initiative. I don't know if you know Malcolm Nash in Sevier County, any of the commissioners there, but there are good things available to economic development professionals. We have the Utah Alliance for Economic Development. We have membership with EDC Utah and GOED. But we're still kind of on our own in the counties. Malcolm and myself and a few other economic development professionals approached the Utah Association of Counties to kind of work in cooperation with UAC to do some of this stuff so that we can all be on the same page with economic developers, with commissioners, with county staff, etc. As it is right now, the next UAC meeting is in April, I believe, and this group of economic developers are planning on meeting about at the same time and using some of the space at that building to kind of get the ball rolling here. And I've listed here some of the advantages that would create for us. It would be a formal association for county economic development professionals. It would be a mechanism for this group to meet and receive training, network, and communicate. And also it would be a central voice for our interests when legislation is considered and policy and issues are made at the state level. We really haven't had a voice for, especially the rural counties, economic development. EDC Utah is a public-private organization that includes economic developers, but it also includes the utilities, the developers, and others. This would be very specific to economic development professionals. It wouldn't be a paid membership. It would just be through our association with the counties. So I'll keep you up to speed with that. When I've reported in the past, I've tried to just hit the three main areas, and I'll give you some updates on these last three to finish up. Really where we concentrate is on local business expansion and retention, new business recruitment, and then retail. And we've done a few things on those since we last met. I just wanted to bring you up to speed on. I mentioned the conference with IEDC on business retention and expansion. It was incredible. In the past, the state, business resource centers, small business development centers, they have a software package for helping with this, but this has really been evolving, and we're looking at making more of a partnership with the BRCs, the chambers, tourism, and all the partners to be able to better address the needs of our businesses. The plan would be that I would spend more time, and Brad and I in our office would spend more time one-on-one with the businesses here in the county, and we would have those resources in the BRC, the university, Southwest Tech, the chamber, all these places that within 48 hours we could set up meetings if needed between the businesses and these resources within our county. It's really just streamlining and connecting the dots, like I mentioned earlier. But the training was very helpful, and we're going to keep working on that. One thing that was really good for us, our Manufacturers Association has been very active this year. I don't know if you recall, but they did their first manufacturing day back in October, just to kind of dip their toes in the water and see what kind of community response they would get. They did a kind of parade of homes thing only for our manufacturers, where several of them opened their doors to tours for a day, and it was overwhelmingly successful. Some were able to hire some folks from that one-day event, so we're already looking ahead to do that again this year. Our manufacturing community is hugely important in the county, and kind of getting the word out what those jobs really entail and the opportunities that are there is great for us. A lot of people just kind of imagine maybe an assembly line working on a widget all day long, but there's really a lot more that goes on in those companies, and the opportunities as far as wages are a lot better there. So we'll work with them. Last year, the legislature passed a program called the Utah Rural Jobs Act. This is a funding type of opportunity that allows investors and companies that are growing to get put together for some financing options. And we've been working on this the beginning of this year. We have a group that was qualified by the state called Advantage Capital to deal specifically with this program. We had them here 2 weeks ago. They met with about 20 local companies, and they're working on some financing programs with them. We'll continue to work on that, and I've got more explanation of what that is here. These are companies that have fewer than 150 employees. They have less than $10 million in net income for the preceding taxable year. They have principal business operations here locally, and they need to fall in the following categories: aerospace, defense, energy and natural resources, financial services, life sciences, outdoor products, software development, information technology, manufacturing, and agribusiness. And we have a lot of companies that fit this criteria. So we've been pairing these folks up with these finance companies. We'll continue to do so and see if that might help some of the growth in these areas. Next is the new business recruitment. I mentioned last time I was here the Utah Megasites designation, where counties can have a large property qualified as a Utah Megasite, and as such it would be kind of front and center with anything that GoEd and EDC Utah does. We're very close to qualifying Port 15 Utah, and we potentially have another site called the Iron Springs Industrial Site that's 418 acres just northwest of Port 15. We're going to compile the information for both of those, and we're going to submit them and see how they go, because they could actually work together as a Megasite program. We have an intern from the university who's been spending a lot of time on that, and we should have that done before the end of this semester. Utah Film Commission. I know I'm running short, so I'll talk quickly here, but Kane County has been very successful working with Utah Film Commission to bring groups in for short time to produce mainly commercials, videos, things like that, and it's quite lucrative for the communities to bring those types of groups in. Brad from my office is becoming certified with Utah Film Commission. We'll work closely with Maria and others to hopefully track some of those projects here. We have a lot of great potential sites for that. A lot of variety and things that those groups are looking for. We've had visits from 2 potential new companies that sought us out from our website. A manufacturing company out of Wisconsin, and also an aerospace company, and we're continue negotiations with them. The other thing that we did Friday morning with our economic development group was beginning an export plan for the county. This will help for recruitment. It will also help for business expansion retention. You've seen the email that I sent out concerning the opportunity zones. This is President Trump's tax and jobs bill that went into effect in December. We submitted the information on that last Friday. That we submit to the 5 County Association of Governments. They submit to the governor's office, and those things, once they're narrowed down, they go on to the Treasury Department federally, and that could create some opportunities for investment here in the county. Let's see. The governor will have that submitted by March 21st. And then finally, just retail development. Retail development is what everybody thinks we do, but we really don't do that much. We do try to work with it, but retail is a lot different creature than the other projects we work on. We want to facilitate retail growth here. Nationwide, it's a tricky game right now with online retail sales. There aren't many big retailers doing anything anywhere in the U.S. We had a development group out of Arizona that had a 1-year option on the 53 acres, the North Cedar City interchange, and they have not renewed that option. But I'm working with EDC Utah to attend the International Shopping Centers Council in Las Vegas again.
Interchange, Danny?
North Interchange, where you see those signs for there's 35 and then 23 or whatever, but those properties are prime for development, but retailers are sitting on their hands these days. So, but we're still going to keep getting the word out, and I'm going to be talking instead of directly with the retailers. We're finding it's making a lot more sense to talk with developers who have those retail relations already. So we lost this other group out of Arizona, but there are a few others that I've been in talks with that I'll be meeting with in Vegas in May. So Just a couple other short things. Rural Day on the Hill was a couple weeks ago. Genpack was recognized as Iron County's Rural Business of the Year. And then we have our Economic Review Breakfast this Wednesday at 8 a.m. at the Courtyard by Marriott. That'll be a 1-hour breakfast program that the Chamber puts on. And then the National Association of Counties has selected our department, or our county, for consideration for training for the National Placemaking Challenge that will be in March. Commissioner Blake and a team will be attending that training to learn how to leverage some of the arts resources that we have here to benefit us economically.
What's the number of Genpac's employees now?
They're just under 400 right now, so they're in their 5th expansion since they moved here in 1994.
So they've well met their incentive requirements?
Yes,
Way.
and then some. Yeah, they've done good, and they're actually looking at even more expansion. This has become their flagship.
What about Charlotte?
Charlotte doubled their space. They added an additional 150,000 square feet and 30 new jobs. So.
Cyril and.
Yeah, so the Cerro Flow building is now Mueller Industries. They're up and running. They have their main shift operating, and they were hiring an overnight shift. And they had almost everybody that they needed last time I talked to them.
Gaff and Smead still running.
Yep, Smead, it's been about 6 weeks since I talked with them. That industry has been paring down the paper filing products, but they've been actually condensing some other operations. They had a plant in Mexico that they're actually moving those production lines up here. It just works a lot better for them to distribute from Cedar City.
Moving up.
From Mexico, yeah.
Hallelujah.
It's encouraging.
It is. Our manufacturers are strong. They're doing very well. We don't have an empty building right now, so that's our biggest challenge in recruiting manufacturing is we have a lot of great raw land, but a lot of these places are looking for buildings.
Still full bore, it looks like.
Pardon me?
Real plastic.
They are, yep, and they've been targeting. They were targeting the energy industries, the gas and oil, but they've been doing a lot of things for municipal sewer projects throughout the country, and that's been a great thing for them. So, you have any other questions?
Just a comment, keep in mind the basement of this building is empty. We could put a call center or whatever it might be. We could put people in here. We'd be tickled to fill it up.
Excellent. I appreciate that.
Not a manufacturing, but well, it could be if it was.
No,
if it was
probably be a
quiet.
great fit for some tech here, and
Yeah.
and you have excellent fiber service here. So
Yeah, exactly.
Danny, what's happened with Nampac now? What name do they go under?
they go under B-Way right now. They've had some leadership changes. They're still strong. Their building is filled, and they're also leasing the DHS building across the street for warehousing and distribution. They could potentially be looking at increasing the size of their building, their warehouse portion
So
on their
they're
current
leasing what building? The one that
the one that was Nail Files right across the street, just to the south and east of where they are now. DHS.
the stainless steel plant?
No, they did Nail Files. Dallas, can't think of his last name, is in that building, but he's only using a small portion of it. So the large warehouse portion is fully leased by B-Way right now.
It was in that facility that I can't remember the name. They built stainless steel tanks and things.
Oh, yeah, that may be the building that they're in right now. I'm thinking of the most current one, but yeah.
I can't remember the name. Can you
Right now, I guess there is one building, but it's smaller. It's under 25,000 square
came
feet.
in from St. Cloud, Minnesota, and they built steel tanks. They built the
Yeah, they were welding those big tanks.
that's the building you're talking about.
That could be. I need to verify that, but I think they were in there before DHS came in. Because it is much bigger than what DHS needs, so they're just leasing it right now.
The roofing company I know is doing a lot of business down in that industrial park.
They are. They added. They had one line originally. Now they have 3 product lines. So they have over 50 full-time employees. They started with 30. It's a lot of square footage for 50 people. There's 500,000 square feet there, but they turn that. They warehouse with it, and they turn that product very quickly. there are trucks that are utilizing 5700 West to go south and catch on the freeway and avoid the city. So that's been a really good thing for us. All right.
Great.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, before we move on, saw Miss Hendricks come in the back. Were you present with the state delegation over the week? Is what I'm trying to spit out. Would you mind talking to us for a few minutes about what happened there?
Do you have any specific questions or?
I guess the biggest concern that's raised its head this morning is deciding if who's Republican enough to stay in the party.
So, this was a special State Central Committee session that was called. The bylaws of the State Central Committee allow a meeting to be called with, I think, 25% of the members of the SCC getting together and calling that meeting. So that happened. We got very little notice, 10 days, I think, for an SCC meeting. So everybody that could kind of rearranged their schedule and got up there. There was a bylaw that was proposed that was noticed with the meeting that when we got there wasn't the bylaw that we were voting on. It had sort of morphed several times, and then during the meeting it actually morphed several times again. It's a contentious bylaw. It really is. It ended up passing by 2 votes. There were a total of, I think, 72 State Central Committee members there. The total is about 180. It's difficult during the legislative session and with short notice. So in fact, I wrote it down. Ooh. Out of the total 180 people that were there, or excuse me, that are on the State Central Committee, I think it was 72, and this bylaw passed with 47 in favor and 21 against. I guess just as a point of personal privilege, if you believe, like I do, that the caucus convention system is the best way for rural counties like ours to be represented, this bylaw, I think, if you go to a 30,000-foot view, is creating a lot of contention with lawmakers, with general Republicans. I think it's largely seen as a litmus test, as a purity test. I don't know that that was the intention, but that's sort of what the feeling is from it. So I'm sure you've seen it, social media is blowing up, and there's just, I think the intention was probably correct, but the execution of it, I just think that more people need to be involved in a change of this magnitude to our bylaws. So I'm sure you've seen everything that I have as far as the back and forth. Do you have any specific questions as far as what went down, how it went down?
Does that change binding? You say 25% of the committee can call a meeting, so is their vote binding when you only have 25%?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
So 25% of the SCC called the meeting, and out of that 25%, 47 people voted in favor of this bylaw, and that binds the whole state party.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've been saying this for a while, but I think that as a Republican Party, if we spent as much time and as much energy communicating about the caucus convention system and bringing people in and being a big tent kind of party, I know that's sort of antithetical to what the conversation is right now, but just sort of Republicans who aren't wonks like me, they don't really get the ins and outs, and I think as a party, especially in Iron County, if we can reach out and educate and bring people in and build those relationships, I still think that we can have a very successful caucus, a very successful convention, and have that be the system that is representative of Iron County going forward.
Can I ask so Jenny, what exactly was the change? I know there were a couple of different versions, so if I'm correct, it only applies to state or to national first and second congressional district, or is that what you just?
Right, okay, so the bylaw effectively says, and it's several paragraphs long, but the effect of it is the party, in order to be a qualified, a QPP, a qualified political party, so it's getting a little wonky, I know, because of SB 54, had to decide if it's a QPP or an RPP. We decided we were a QPP, so following state law, that allowed a signature path to the ballot. So this bylaw was created to sort of redefine who is a Republican candidate. So there's excuse me for reading from my phone, but there was an anticipated timeline of events that was created. So if this bylaw were to go into effect, which it was voted on, so January 2nd, the period for declaration of intent to gather signatures. March 9th through 15th, the candidate filing period. Candidates who already declared intent to gather signatures must withdraw their intent in writing to the party and to the state by March 15th, or they will be in violation of the new bylaw and will be subject to membership forfeiture. So what this law is saying, or what this bylaw is saying, that Republicans who choose to gather signatures will be forced to forfeit their membership in the Republican Party. Members who fail to sign or honor their candidate certification agreements forfeit membership at the end of the period. March 15th through the 20th is an objection period. So Utah Code 208-9-202 gives the party 5 days to object to candidacies, which it must do. And then June 26th is the primary election. So from March 20th through June 26th, the lieutenant governor denies the candidate objection. The party, the Republican Party, must file a legal challenge to the lieutenant governor's denial of objections. Then the court rules on the objection, and if the court upholds the party's objection, the candidate will, with forfeited membership, will not be given access to the primary ballot. There was a proviso added on, and this was included in the vote, that this bylaw for the 18 election cycle would only affect House Districts 1 and 2 because nobody has filed for signatures in those districts. So although this is the new bylaw, the proviso allows anybody who has already filed for signatures, except for in Congressional Districts 1 and 2, to move forward under the current system. That's super wonky, sorry.
Sorry, one more question. So for next year or subsequent elections, if you gather signatures and you are a Republican, the Republican Party will say you can't really be a Republican.
You cannot be a Republican on the ballot. Yeah. And this is setting up the party by their own timeline to sue other Republicans, which,
But this is effective next year.
yes, for everybody except for Congressional Districts 1 and 2.
Signature gatherers this year
Correct.
are okay.
Are fine. Yep. Everybody except for Congressional Districts 1 and 2, it won't start until the next election cycle.
Interesting.
It was really interesting yesterday or Saturday, yeah. So
Thanks. Jim.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, our department reports went a little bit over this morning. Let's take a 5-minute break just to take care of any personal needs. with the building, but we're going to move forward without him. First on the list is the Prairie Dog Take approval requests. Oh, sorry. I went right past public comments. Public comments today. 3 minutes. See, Jessica, you got me excited about the prairie dogs.
That got me excited.
Okay.
I'm here about those 4 roads. My name's Tom Hale, and we've been doing this for 8 months. And I've been going after. I've been getting used, and I've been nervous. So I'm done with that being nervous stuff. No more coming after the county. The county informed me that they're not going to put these roads to county specs, and we didn't want the county to do county specs. These roads were made in 1972, so we don't know if they were up to county specs. Anyway, 8 years ago, roughly 2006 or so, the Water Conservancy came in and dug up these roads, and that's been proven, and nothing's been done. And I've left messages with Commissioner Blake, and I talked roughly with Paul Cousins, and these roads need to be fixed, and there's only a couple of revenues or opportunities, you could say, left for me to do, and I don't want to go to those opportunities. So Paul, if we could get together, or even Commissioner Blake, we need to get this taken care of. These people just want their roads fixed.
So just, I've never, in our water board meetings, I've never heard of this until I've heard it from you in these meetings. So if the water district gets advantage of the roads, we need to fix them. But I'm not aware of it.
Well,
Adams, do we need to go out? Do we need to send some equipment out and fix those? I mean, we've got a backhoe.
I think you need to go out there and take a tour and determine if there was damage done, and it's between those folks and you, really. I mean,
yes,
commission, and we told you our
exactly. And
give me the address. I'll get.
Those roads are not the county standard, and that's why we're not going to go in there and improve them. And anytime there's damage done to a road by a utility or whatever, then they're always, they're bound to repair. So we really need to be taken out of this.
Exactly.
Let you two groups decide what
I'm sorry for attacking the road.
Oh, you're fine. I mean, you're fine. I'd like to see this thing come to a conclusion.
Oh, yes. It's not for me, and I've talked to quite a few of the residents, and they have tried to get the roads fixed. They were always turned down by the county engineer. I have no idea why, because the roads aren't up to
I don't think the county engineer turned them down.
Well, he just
told them how much. He gave them an estimate, probably like he does on any other subdivisions like this, how much it would cost to bring it up to county standards, because the county is not in the development business. We don't, so when they bring it to county standards, then we take it over.
Yes, sir.
And maybe they had sticker shock, which happens quite often.
Yes, I know all of that. I've read the subdivision ordinances, the encroachment ordinance, and also the excavation ordinance. And I've got those 3 pretty well in my brain, and I was in a really bad motorcycle accident, so my brain's a little slow, and that's why, before I stutter. But there's no reason why these roads don't get fixed. I mean, they're 25-mile-an-hour speed signs. You can't go down that road, especially 5900. If you're lucky to get 5 miles an hour, that's great. The others, 5500, 5550, 5700, those are pretty nice roads. The culverts need to be cleaned and just add a little bit of base. I mean, that's all it needs. They just want the roads back how they were. And that's fine with me. I'm just a citizen, and my roads are perfect. I have county roads, so these people are paying taxes, and they just want their roads fixed.
And let me just ask you one question. I know in our conversations before, you have met with Paul Monroe at the Conservancy District. Am I correct or not?
Well, no. I just teased him a little bit when I was in there. I go in and talk to the women, you know, and just get them to smile a little bit, you know. And I just seen Paul, and I teased him that one time about, you know, those roads were supposed to be fixed when you guys tore them up. And he didn't say anything, and I was leaving, and as I was leaving, he was on the phone to somebody, and this is just me saying this, but I heard him say, no one told me I had to put those roads back the way they were. And that's just what I heard him say, and, you know, and that's just me saying that, and there's no weight to it, I guess you could say. But besides that, you know, I had one question. I was talking to some individuals about 6,000 South, I believe it's Vanderburg, and it goes up to Ladybug. Mm-hmm. And I was out running my dogs, and I seen Mr. Preston out there, and he was working on that road. He was building it up, and he put some culverts in there. And I didn't quite understand it, why they're developing that road all the way up to that little subdivision that's supposed to be a large subdivision, but there's only about 20 individuals in there. And I did find out that subdivision did what these other people did, and they're going to get their roads fixed because they're going to put it into their taxes, and which is what, you know, the individuals should do. I mean, that
right. They're going to have an agreement there to fix the roads within the subdivision.
Right.
I mean, they're thinking about it because they have sticker shock on that. But we're just improving Vandenberg Road, which is a dedicated county road.
Right, exactly.
Goes up there. So that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, they were raising it up a good 3 foot, and I had to go around them. And
yeah. Well, could I suggest that you get on the Water Conservancy District Board agenda?
Yes.
Then the whole board can hear your concerns?
Exactly. Well, I didn't know that, Commissioner. You know, 8 months of attacking you, and you know, it just taken me a little while to get used to the commission and the meetings, and you know, and getting, I don't know what it is, but I would just stutter and got nervous and everything. And today I told myself I'm not going to get sticker shock with you guys. You know, I'm not going to get nervous. But sorry I went over 3 minutes.
Oh, you're write down your information and the address so that Paul can follow up on that. Yeah, I'll have him contact you and go out and look at them.
There are 4 roads. You don't need an address. It's
just write down your contact information. So
okay. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. I failed to get the minutes approved from last meeting.
Where are they sitting?
Yeah, Commissioner Brinkerhoff.
February 12th. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the minutes of February 12th of the Iron County Commission meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the approval of the minutes has been approved, motion and seconded. So signature on the
Did you vote?
Well, did you ask for
You want to say all in favor?
oh, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
I thought I did, but
Maybe you did.
I got worried about. I'm still thinking about prairie dogs.
So you got it?
It still says Commissioner Brinkerhoff on there.
Oh, well, and it's probably appropriate that he sign those.
Yeah,
Whatever.
those were. I was gonna say those were the last. I mean, those were
The last
Yeah.
meeting.
there. So. Okay. We're finally to prairie dogs.
Can I take 1 sec?
Sure.
Paul Cousins, commissioners, I appreciate just a minute real quick. I was reading about Ken Ivory's bill, the bipartisan bill with his name slipped my mind, the Democrat in the senator in the Senate. But the HCR 19, where they're talking about the PILT funding, HCR 19, and then also the HB 357, where it authorizes a commission on federalism to determine what the reasonable property tax would be for the federal control of our lands. And then I read something about the Trump administration was thinking about cutting our PILT funding by 15%. Could you just maybe talk about, are you following this resolution that Ken Ivory's pushing?
I read the heading, but there's so many bills I haven't followed
Okay.
that closely.
All right.
No, but
It was
we
passed-
have heard that the administration is talking about cutting. I mean, I think they're planning on cutting. We get a little over $3 million, so that would cut into us pretty heavily. That would be quite a bit of money. But and of course we have mixed feelings. You know, we're conservative people. We don't want to overtax the people, but we also feel like, you know, PILT is, I don't think it's an entitlement. It's something that this sounds weird. It's not an entitlement, but we are entitled to it. You know what I mean? It's not an entitlement in the negative sense of the word, but because we have all this public land in the state, then the federal government should be paying us that payment in lieu of taxes payment. So we'll continue to fight for that. There's no question.
Well, that sounds good. I've always considered a pittance in lieu of taxes, but it's I mean they're obligated to pay it, and because of the heavy ownership of the lands in our state, it's anyway.
But if PILT went away, it wouldn't reduce our taxes any.
Right. Okay.
If PILT goes away, it may increase our local taxes, but it won't reduce our federal tax just by doing away with PILT.
Anyone else have a public comment?
I forgot, but
Good.
you weren't here. I'm not nervous anymore. The individuals out there by the 6,000 south, there's a large herd of deer down there. I don't know if they call them a herd, but there's a large presence of deer, and they were concerned if there was any kind of environmental check on that. And I told them I have no idea, but I would ask.
You need to contact the Division of Wildlife Resources on that.
Yeah, because there's a.
And this young lady right here on the front row, after the meeting, visit with her. She's a prairie dog specialist, but she's got cohorts that work with deer.
There's no hunting out there because the southwest have some large deer. That's what I was told.
Thank you.
They'll be a little bigger than prairie dogs.
They don't dig holes.
Please.
Okay, great. The moment we've all been excited for, some prairie dog
Love that
tape.
podium, don't you?
Oh, yes, this is nice. Okay, so we've got 3 projects for Adam Lake. He will be developing an Iron Mountain subdivision in Enoch. He'll be developing lot 31 for take of 1.7 prairie dogs and 0.45 acres of habitat. So that's $450 of mitigation payment. He'll also be developing lot 32 in Iron Mountain subdivision for take of 1.8 prairie dogs and 0.46 acres of habitat, which is $460 mitigation fee. Then he'll also be developing lot 33, which is 1.8 Utah prairie dog take and 0.46 acres of habitat, which is $460. And then we also have a project for Mark Meisner. He'll be developing lot 24 in Sycamore Trails. We had done this survey for him actually under state management, and we tried to trap out the prairie dog, but we weren't successful, so we had 1 prairie dog remaining on that property. So it's take of 1 prairie dog and 0.22 acres of habitat, so it's $220.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the prairie dog take request as presented for Adam Lake. Excuse me. Development for property at Iron Mountain Subdivision, Lot 31, 1.7 Utah prairie dogs and 0.45 acres of habitat, which is a fee of $450. Development for property located at Iron Mountain Subdivision, Lot 32, 1.8 Utah prairie dogs and 0.46 acres of habitat with a fee of $460. Development for property located at Iron Mountain subdivision for lot number 33. 1.8 Utah Prairie Dogs and 0.46 acres of habitat, fee of $460. Also for development for, this is for Mr. Mark Meisner, development for property located at lot 24 Sycamore Trail, Cedar City. 1 Utah Prairie Dog and 0.22 acres of habitat, the fee being $220.
Second.
All right. Item number 2, item A, 1, 2, and 3, as well as B, have been motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved.
Okay.
Thank you. Do
Great.
you have any follow-up with the GCP?
I do. Both Reed Erickson and I touched base with the Fish and Wildlife Service, and they're trying to move pretty quickly to have it in by April. They're waiting on solicitor review, so that's kind of out of their hands, but they're doing everything they can to get back to their public comments. They appreciated the letter from Mr. Brinkerhoff, and so hopefully they'll let us know by mid-March if it won't be in place by April. And the HEP that we're under right now will carry through till July, till it expires, so we'll have both of these mechanisms. So maybe I still will visit with you guys. And I don't have any updates on we're doing that population viability analysis. We have an in-person meeting tomorrow, so hopefully I'll get some good information to bring back to you guys. So.
Okay.
How much take have we got left in the
I did not look at that. I know it's about 80 something. We were at 90.
Still at 8? Okay.
Yeah, we were at 90 and we just gave 6.3 out, so we're in the 80s. And if I am wrong, I will correct that next meeting. And I can also send out, just let you guys know what we have. I'll send you an email. So.
Looks like we're good to get through to July then.
Yeah, I think so. And then this GCP is great because there's not a number of animals, no cap take allotment. So. Okay.
Awesome.
Very good.
Super. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 3, Paragon Town requesting approval to enter into an interlocal agreement. Here to speak for that.
Hello, I'm Todd Robinson, Paragon Mayor, and we would like to have the county be our building inspector again.
Okay.
When did we cease becoming your building inspector? Just
I'm
for
not
historical
sure.
sake.
It's been, I don't know, four or 5 years, I
I
think.
didn't say why. I said when. I already know why.
Has it been about 5 years, maybe? Like that? I'm not sure. Oh, okay.
Long.
10 years.
Time flies.
Yeah.
Any comment from the building department?
I thought you said how you going to have time to do this. That's what we're wondering. But I'll send her for a question. Anyway, the thing of it is that, as a building department, we do not have time, as everybody knows, to be a building inspector. Now you have to be certified through ICC. I'm licensed by the state of Utah. You have to be certified for 3 years. You have to be certified in every discipline you're going to inspect. And we require at least 4 disciplines in our county. That is very stringent to have to meet. Commissioners, what I would like to say is, no, we do not have time, but I think we are obligated to give a demanded service to our builders as readily and effectively as possible. So it's easier to work with one building office rather than several. And I just think we kind of owe it to our builders where possible. Yeah, 2 new residences.
So Chad, your office is compensated by the building permit fee. We don't charge them, the city. It's the same thing with Parowan, Canara, Ryan Head. What about Cedar Highlands? Okay, strike it.
It isn't a work ethic there. Our workload is more of a liability load than a a 30-70 split on the building permit fee itself. We can call time check fees, reinspection fees, and
So who's been doing your inspections for the last 10 years?
At first, it was Rick Robinson. Might explain why we didn't use the county. And then lately it has been Robert Daly. He's from here in town. He was an inspector up at Bryan Head. He is currently an inspector in Washington City and lives in Hurricane. So that's the problem we've got. He is hard to get up here. He's been telling people, oh, well, I don't have time to come up, take a picture of it and send it to me, which I don't think is something that should be done. And, you know, so we're need to do something different.
You think you can assume it for the moment, Chad?
we can. I think, like I said, I think we owe it to our builders and public to do so.
Then, Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve the request from Paraguna City for a local agreement for building inspection services with an added appendage to the motion that we can terminate it at any time. It doesn't require 60 days or 30. I want to be able to step out if we need to.
If you want to change it, you can. I wrote it in there as 180 days. We can change that.
No, let's put 30 days. If we have a problem, we ought to be able to get out and correct it. You okay with that, Mayor?
I'm fine.
Okay. So the motion states the approval of the interlocal agreement with Paraguna City with a 30-day bailout period on either party.
Second.
Item number 3 has been motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It is passed. Thank you. Agenda item number 4, request for forgiveness of taxes due to hardship for APN A-479-3.
Chat or Dan, would one of you ask Christine to come? Christine was going to speak to this, and so.
I talked to her this morning. She said you were, so I'll grab.
Oh,
I thought you were.
I swear I asked her to do that, and she
Well,
said she
we
would.
can talk.
We must not have been communicating very well.
There, that's while we've got a second. We can pass that one over to. Yeah, this. Let me see if I can. Oh. That's what we've got on that one.
That's what we got on that one. Okay. That's not good information.
Well, Christine is coming in. This is a parcel that has typically gotten an abatement. Oh, she's here.
I'm sorry if we had a misunderstanding.
Okay, where are we?
Just talking about the whys and the wherefores of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, get my brain going here. Ms. Richardson, I sent her an application earlier in the year, last year, which I always do. She did not send it in time. And so when she and her friend Norma Baker came in a couple days into December, I informed them that I wouldn't be able to help with the taxes through the abatement program because it was closed as of the 30th of November. So I told Norma that probably the best bet would be to go up and talk to John in his office to see about getting on the agenda or, you know, seeing if there would be any relief through the commissioners. So I didn't know whether she had talked to you or not. I just sent them up there and they said they knew where you were.
My understanding is you caught Alma at church.
Oh.
And Alma asked me to put it on, and I'm fine. And I guess there was some issue. There was like some memory issues. And
She's talking about before this one when she talked to them and said to come to your office to talk about getting.
Yeah, that was in December.
Okay,
and
sorry.
Yeah. So, you know, I didn't know what became of it after that until Alma talked to me, Commissioner Adams talked to me the other day.
Alma's good.
About what had happened. And so I gave him the story, which I pretty much put in the letter that I furnished Friday. Let's see. So Cleone Richardson, she is having some memory problems. Her son did contact me in July or August. I don't remember when. I've slept since then. But anyway, he said, we'll be coming, you know, into town that week, and they would drop it off. Well, they didn't, and I didn't think anything more about it until Norma Baker came in towards the end of November after they'd got the tax bill, looking at it and realized that it hadn't been paid. So she picked up another application, but I informed her it had to be back before the 30th so I could process it, because after that I can't anymore. It's just.
So they never did show up at your office?
No.
Oh, okay. I know that they walked down the hall to, you know, to go up the stairs, but I didn't walk them up because Norma said she knew.
When I heard of it, it was via Alma, via Commissioner Adams.
All right. So anyway, as I mentioned in the letter, Mrs. Richardson has been applying for it. My records online go back as far as 2007, and she's applied every year up to last year. So I'm assuming it was just an oversight, and we know they happen. So, you know, my recommendation, if you can do it, would be to forgive her taxes for 2017. At this point, Nicole in the treasurer's office would need to take care of that, because I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, it can't go through the regular channels. It would have to be forgiven.
No, not after November 30th. I can't do any circuit breakers, special abatements, or blinds. Veterans I can, but the other three I cannot.
Okay, thank you so much. I move, because of extenuating circumstances with dementia of this tax payer, that we forgive the taxes on her personal residence for 2017. And we haven't got an amount, but I think it's somewhere $800. I think is what her sister told me, in the $800 range.
That's AP number A479-3, and I'll second the motion.
All right. Item number 4, request for forgiveness of taxes due to hardship for APN A-479-3 in the amount of approximately $800 has been motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion is approved. Moving on to number 5. This is the award of crushing contract for 30,000 cubic yards of untreated base coarse aggregate to Mel Clark Construction for a total amount of $166,500.
Steve Platt asked me about this one, and I said, well, let's get it on the agenda. This was a bid opening that had been done previously. As explained in the letter, Mel Clark was the low bid, and Steve was very encouraged by the price and was hoping this would be approved. Steve Platt, our engineer.
Move to approve the crushing contract for 30,000 cubic yards of untreated base course agreement to Mel Clark Construction for a total of $166,500. Incidentally, that is an extremely good price.
Second.
Motion has been, item has been motioned and a motion for approval and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Just a few personnel-related items on the agenda here. First one is the request for approval of new hire Melissa Dalton, who was recently hired to backfill the part-time DMV title and registration technician within the assessor's department. This is as a result of some of the rearranging that we did, but where we had, you know, a part-time moved to full-time, one of the full-time moved to a supervisor position, and this was just kind of the last step in that process where, again, it's a backfill, requesting that the approval be made effective with the effective date of February 15th, 2018. There's a typo on the agenda there.
Adrian, is there a budget implication?
No, it's all been accounted for. No negative implication there. I'm assuming you probably want me. Should we just lump them all together?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. And then there's just a request for 2 planned pay increases for employees within the corrections department. One is for the approval to increase Zach Wood with the effective date of February 11th, 2018, due to him completing his post certification and his field training orientation. This is just in keeping with our standard practice of increasing the employees, the correction employees, upon completing those 2 requirements, and then also a pay increase for Robert Hunt, who is employed by us as a medical tech. He was initially hired with the agreement that he would. He was hired at a lower rate of pay with the agreement that he would increase as he sought after and completed his EMT certifications, beginning with the basic, and then his next step is to seek and complete the advanced.
And what are those percentages, Adrian?
It was normally they're hired at $18 an hour. He was hired at 16, with the understanding he'd go to 17.
Is this 5%?
Well, no, it's what would it be? A little less than 5%. So it goes. It's just $1. So it goes from 16 to 17, 17 to 18, and this one is from the 16 to 17.
6 1/4.
So his Zach Wood's new
A
rate
little
will
more
be
than
what?
5, right? My math. I'm sorry.
Zach's new rate would be what?
Zach's specifically is from 1643 to 1766, and Roberts was 1813 to 1913.
Okay, then, Mr. Chairman, I'd move the approval of the new hire, which isn't a new hire. It was a backfill position in part-time in DMV, and that doesn't have a budget consequence. In corrections, I'd move the approval also of the pay increase from Zach Wood effective February 11th, 2018. His rate would go to $17.66. And approval of pay increase for Robert Hunt effective 2/11/2018 for his completion of the basic EMT course. His new rate would be $19.13.
Second.
Items have been motioned and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey, Commissioners, I apologize. I misspoke with Robert Hunt. The normal starting rate is 20, not 18. Same principle applies, but he started at 18. He's going to go to 19 and then 20, which is the bottom range of the medical technician position.
So those rates are still correct?
Yeah, everything is correct in the motion. I misspoke prior to that. The next agenda item has to do with the request, some of the conversation that Chad Ney and I have had where there is a need and been some discussion where, and Chad, you may, okay, I was looking back, there you are. So correct me if I'm wrong, but during budget time, there was some discussion to where there was going to be a need to move one of the building maintenance workers to move them into a building inspector zoning officer position. It was then communicated during that budget process to me that we were gonna back off of that request. It might have been a misunderstanding either on my part or something. So we didn't budget for it at that time. But now the conversation is occurring again because there is a need, which Chad will probably be able to better explain. But so we're not wanting to add a person, but we're just wanting to change and convert one of those maintenance workers into the inspector, zoning officer. The pay range is a little higher just because the requirements, the educational, the certifications are such that the pay range or the pay value is a little bit higher. So there would be a budget implication that wasn't planned for at the beginning of the year. But again, based off need, it's something that it sounds like would be a step in the positive direction. Am I on the right track? Or
it is. I'll take the blame on that. What happened there, commissioners, was I'd had it written up in the budget that looked like it was going to be for an additional person, and you start to go down that road to say, yeah, that's the way we're going to do it. And then I corrected and says, wait a minute, I really just want to move somebody over into that position rather than add new. So it was my fault. I think at that point I left you with the impression that, okay, you don't need more money because they're already getting paid. So that's more.
Okay, that makes sense.
So at what time will the new person be certified?
That. Got it?
Nope, go ahead.
I'll take it. Nope. That's another reason why we want to do that is we do have 2 people. Well, we actually have 3 in there. Lester has more certifications than any of them, but I can't afford to let him quit doing what he's doing with all the new buildings and additions that we have. But he does help us out where he can. We do appreciate Lester. He's a big man, but I tell you what, he's worth his weight in gold, that gentleman is. So they do have, the 2 that are left, they do have, one of them has 3 certifications at this point, actually.
Gentleman Nathan or Jeff?
Jeff, headed for a 4th, but Nathan also has a couple. So that's why we're opening it up, is to give them both a chance to see what they want to do. So, anyway, so we can put them to work right now.
So when would that be effective, and when would the pay increase be effective?
The way it's lining up, I would like to have it.
There's no time requirement.
Go through
Is
this.
if that's what you're looking
Oh,
at.
there isn't?
Well, I mean, it's
To
just
open it up?
it would be an internal position in terms of, so there's not really we're not tied to like a 30-day time frame. It's, I mean, we could do.
Not worried about that. I'm just worried about what the effective date was.
I would like it to go for no later than April 1st if we could.
And the certification such that there's a pay increase merited now? Or are we going to wait for enough certifications to make the move?
They would have to. How close is so you have the 4 certification requirement? I mean, and you
I
would.
can send them out anyway on jobs as long as they have even one. Because they are licensed.
Well, and I'm sorry. So say your question again.
The date, the effective date, and the effective date of the pay increase. Effective date of the move to do the job, and effective date to be fully certified, which would do this start of the pay increase.
We leave it open and say no later than April 1st. Give us about a month, 6 weeks.
Yeah, so we wouldn't. I think maybe again, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're just saying we wouldn't do the pay increase until the certifications are met, even if they're doing the job.
No,
right?
we'd pay them for what they're certified to do.
Okay, right.
And we'd
So-
pay them when their certifications increase.
And this is the one we had some prior discussion where I had outlined through email in the commission correspondence back on the 6th, where it overall we're looking at a net increase. If this is approved, it's going to be affect the budget, increase the budget from about 5,000 to 6,000 annually.
But you'll bring that back at such time as we're ready to move on it effective the 1st of April or whenever we decide?
Yeah, if once would come with a request in terms of the person that's selected for the position. I guess this is the request to transition and to open, you know, to move one of those maintenance workers to a zoning officer or building inspector. Is just the go ahead to proceed, and then I'll come back with a request specific to the employee.
Dan?
Got a question in the back.
Dan.
So, I just have a question as far as the effect of the total budget. I know what we're talking about now, but are we gonna come back in 8 months and say now we don't have enough maintenance guys, we add a maintenance guy, the effect being we added a building guy? If that's the case, let's just call it what it is, or are we not doing that?
We don't think so right now. We gotta try it and see, what's the building gonna do? You know, we had a great discussion about that the other day, didn't we? So, you know, you just never know in that predicament what's gonna happen, but I think my crystal ball say we're in for this, at least what we are right now, for another year. At least.
Can't drive this damn thing yet.
So this is a discussion for the possible approval. We're not necessarily talking implementation right now, correct?
I hope we're talking, the reason, I feel like I had permission to do it, but I am one that I'm not gonna go forward because I am huge on staying within budget. So I would not go through with doing this until I had permission to do it budget-wise. So I'm hoping today that we can get approval to move forward to open the job up, see which one or both want to apply. Adrian and I do the interviews within the next month, 4 to 6 weeks, if that's reasonable time.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then come back for the choice no later than April. That's what I'm really hoping for.
Okay.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, I would so move that we authorize the building department to move forward with investigating possibility of converting maintenance man to inspector. That we'll revisit this option on the 9th of April in the regular meeting as a budget item, and you can then present the name of the person who's been chosen and effective budget implication.
Be a second first, and then on discussion there.
No, you don't want discussion before the
Point of
second?
order, you need a second first.
I do, okay. Second.
Okay, another thing I want to point out, this is a backfill. Remember when we started down last time down the road that the building started on the decline? We had 4 full-time building inspectors at that time, and we still haven't replaced all of those yet, so.
So this is kind of a stopgap.
It's definitely a backfill.
Yeah.
Mr. Brinkerhoff gave us some great ideas back then. We appreciate it, and we're putting them implementing them now. Basically, what this program's doing that we think is going to work. I think.
I do too. Thanks.
Okay, so the discussion of possible approval of moving current building and maintenance worker to building inspector zoning officer has been motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is approved. Non-delegated items.
You noticed your list is shorter than it used to be?
I know.
Really?
Heck yeah. That's wonderful.
Let's go call Holbein.
Thank you. Anything else? Anything else we need to? Oh,
You guys are really going to miss me eventually. Couple courthouse items. I know we're here, but we're still having some minor housekeeping issues we need to take care of. One of which is we thought we had this taken care of, but we're not sure, and so I'm just bringing it before you again. The IT department needs approval to order cameras, exterior cameras and interior cameras for this building. They're all wired, plus the recording system. The cost on that, their lowest bid was $20,664.29. And that's for 10 outside cameras, 11 inside cameras, and also a new DVR recording system for.
You say that price one more time? Is it 20,000?
$20,664.29. And we thought it was part of the project, so Jared did not put it in his budget.
So, Mr. Chairman, there's not a motion. The motion is not appropriate because there's not an agenda item.
Right.
I'd still like to roll this until we resolve the elevator issue for another week or whatever it takes us to resolve the elevator issue with the price tag associated with that. So let's follow up with Mr. Holbein after this meeting and see if we can resolve it, and then bring this back for. Well, we don't need to bring it back. It's not an agenda item, so
yeah,
right.
That'd be my preference.
Cindy.
Question: while most of the elected officials and the building department are in, can we set up some sort of a, I don't know, when the power goes out in Carolyn for a long time, which happens quite often?
I'm actually hoping that's a fluke, by the way.
But we can figure out a process so we know who has a key, who can restart the boiler, what, I mean, I know it might be a fluke, but we need to be able to get in, we need to know who to call and what to do.
Normally it would have been me, but I was out of town that week, or last week. So normally, I almost drove the 2 hours to come back to take care of the issue. But, so,
But then,
but
like, can there be a,
because John Whitaker has a key, he can get in the building. Also, Jared Wilson has a key.
right,
Problem is Jared is out sick and he doesn't actually know he even has a key for the building yet. And so that would be, normally, Jared would have one because Jared could come in and, because his system would go down, he's the one that needs to reactivate that system. And as soon as that system's activated, it would get the other system, the rest of the system is going. Also on the electrical issue, as you've seen the electricians here today changing out the wall panels, he's also checking out the system to find out why it did that. And he's going to do whatever we need to do so it doesn't have to be reset.
So that wasn't anticipated?
That was not anticipated.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was built in or if that's going to happen every time it bumps. Or?
According to the electrician, it shouldn't, and if it does, he's going to come up with a fix.
Okay. So the building shut itself down so just so everyone knows, the power came back up. The building did not turn back on, and we had to manually do that. But that's what they were.
Well, it could have been all of a sudden a surge hit the building. The building is going to protect itself. That's what it's designed to do.
I can affirmatively tell you that there was. Jared told me that his stuff had a surge. There was a surge warning that happened early on, and I talked to Rocky Mountain Power, and they said they had 4 strands down, and they probably crossed wires at some point and got a good surge.
And so the system did what it was supposed to do, but we're just making sure on an average outage that the power goes out in Para 1, it comes back on 10 minutes later, the building's going to come back on.
So to Cindy's point then, the plan, which is not formalized, but is essentially Jared's in town. He's probably going to be first on the scene. You'll probably train him on the boilers and the power.
Well, I'll come over
depending on
and
how
take
that
care of
goes.
the boilers are my staff.
Yeah.
But
so if I live in Perwin and you guys don't, and I know the power's out, do I call, or is there, that's what I'm saying, because you had no idea.
I would like to know. If you shoot me a text saying the power's down, and then let me know that there's an issue. It's like, our first notification of an issue, because I knew the power was down at 7 o'clock that night when it went down. I actually the system notifies me that it goes down. I wasn't aware of the fact that it didn't come back on. It was one of those where you assume the system log to come back on.
I would suggest that you coordinate with Jared because his system is pretty sophisticated on how it notifies him, and maybe you can get on his notification list as well. I mean, I don't think it would hurt anything.
Yeah, that way, because then I know if there's a problem, and then I can start making arrangements. Either myself or Chad or Nate or Jeff would come over.
But in theory, whenever the power goes down, it should reset and we should still be able to get back in.
Yeah.
with our key cards.
Yep.
And the only people that have physically please get in the building are you, John, and
Jared. Yeah, well, that will go through the exterior doors.
But Lester, we still have two problems. Number one, we needed an efficient way of getting the notice out. We need somebody that's close by that can respond early. But secondly, and you've already covered this, thankfully, we don't want very many people, more than 2 or 3, with access to go down and start on the main breaker.
Yeah, John can attest, it was not an easy thing to describe over the phone how to do.
Well, there's some reasons.
Not going to accidentally do it.
There's some safety and there's some lockout. There's a lot of procedure in restoring power, because if we have an issue within the building, and I'm preaching to you, of course, because you don't know this, we have a building issue that blows out again, we simply have to restrict that access to people who know what they're doing down there. But on the other hand, we still need to provide enough access so we can get the power restored. So maybe this is a good learning curve, but we certainly don't want very many keys out to the mechanical room.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. We're gonna run into different issues as things come up in this building,
and we'll work through.
We have no idea on how some of these new systems are going to work.
They'll work out. We'll work it out.
So while you're here, the switches he's putting in today, we're gonna be done. We're not gonna have people not be able to.
Nope, it's actually kind of nice because now you have an all-on switch, an all-off switch, and a raise and lower light switch.
Okay.
Good. Yeah. So.
Good.
And if there's and then if there's an issue, contact me, because I can come in and program the lights to do other things. But
what about these monitors?
At this point in time, we were just leaving them alone because I couldn't get them much lower.
No, I mean being able to use them. We still.
I
talked.
I can tell you what IT.
I don't know. I thought that was taken care of. To be honest with you.
IT told me they were trying to figure out whether to do a virtual switch or an actual physical switch. They're going to do an actual physical switch, so you'll have a workstation there, or you'll be able to see what's on the screen here. So and then what's on your screen.
The time delay and the cost of the virtual switch was not worth it. We can buy a $10 push button switch that you guys can physically switch.
So if you
or we can spend $100 for each of you to do it digitally. So.
Okay, my question is, are those on order?
I believe so. I'll follow up with the IT department on that. So
they were curious as to what to do, and I said I think you should move forward. They may have been waiting to visit with you all about that.
Brett talked to me, and I said that was fine with me. I just thought we would have them anyway. We just want to use.
Like I said, I thought my last conversation with them, it was all ahead go. So.
Okay.
Another discussion that we'll need to have on this building that will need to come up for agenda item. I'm getting quotes to, John needs his election room downstairs operational.
By May.
By May. Now is actually a good time to do it because a lot of the companies are a little slow, not really slow, but the quotes are coming back in to get it completely done around $40,000.
And that covers what?
That's painting, new ceiling tile, and a little bit of electrical work, getting the electrical back up and running, because the basement electrical was in such a state that we ended up having just to cut it and abandon it. And so we have to kind of redo all the electrical as we go room by room. But that's actually, that would be including the painting. We're just painting that floor down there. We're not doing any other floor covering, but we're doing a epoxy coating type paint like you would in a garage in that room, just for the use, what it's used for.
Does that have to be acid etched?
No. They'll grind it a little bit and then do a.
And it's been painted before.
Yeah, it's painted now. So.
That seems awful high. Just that room. Electrical, ceiling tile, and paint.
What's that?
Like, I'm married to a painter. They're gonna want to acid etch it.
They probably will. I don't know.
Or it'll come up. So.
Yeah. That includes that room and the breezeway, and also getting the light so we can actually turn on the light switch on the storage room without plugging in a cord in the wall.
So that includes a new ceiling, painted floor, painted walls?
Painted floor, painted walls.
And electrical upgrade.
Electrical upgrade and some data. We're pulling some data into that room.
So you'll bring that back whenever your bids are in?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
And then the last item I have to bring before you is we have potential renters for the Fiddlers Building, but we've been holding them off because we need a decision made upon what we're doing with that building. We also have an empty office now at the
Office building.
Thank you. This is in our office building. One of the five county office for child development is relocating to the Richfield area. They're kind of going to Richfield to St. George. They're eliminating the Cedar City office.
And where is that office?
It's the end where the fire guys.
It's the south set of offices. And so, in the Fiddlers Building, we have the Conservancy District has indicated that they would like to change offices and go to another space. And we actually have a private individual who would like to rent essentially the north half of the building upstairs. But they are only interested if we are keeping it. They don't want to come in.
I thought
and get us.
Monroe wanted to move into Nicole's old area.
No, actually, it's the engineer that Monroe uses wants to move into Nicole's old area. Monroe wants to move into Debbie's area. Chad's old
So
office.
that still leaves the clerk's space vacant.
Well, actually, the clerk space, they want the company that wants to come in wants the clerk space and Nicole's space. The space that would be left empty, in my understanding, would be upstairs. Would be the where Water Conservancy District is now. That would become empty.
But still leaves the total basement vacant.
Yeah. We do have desire from IT department to move in, and also the auditor would like to have an office with a computer sitting there for his use as well.
I don't need an office, I just wanna.
Okay, he wants a closet with a computer.
I want to be able to run in, people will ask for reports on a Saturday or something, and I just need to be able to get in, and I don't have to, I can drive over here, but get in and access the system.
Or you can tell them to look at the damn calendar.
What's that?
You can tell them to look at the damn calendar. Call you Monday morning. Unless it's one of us.
If we have a closet, I could put a computer in, get rid of the building, it's not a big deal.
But one of your options we do have, because of that empty office over at the office building, the individuals who would be interested in moving into the Fiddlers Building, we could actually move.
So
them.
what time will it be? At what point in time will it be available with all the junk that's in it now?
Sorry, that
that
goes
question
over to-
has to do with how the timing of our little yard sale that we'll have. And
Yeah, we've kind of been holding off because we're waiting for the last little bit of furniture from.
how
Debbie's
close are
office.
we?
I don't know. I have to follow up with Debbie. Find out when her stuff's going to be delivered. But
Why don't you let us know what the
Sooner
total
the
rent
better.
would be, Lester?
It's supposed to be coming this week.
Oh, so you're looking in the next week or so that we.
Let us know what the total rent would be from everyone that wants to rent on the up floor upstairs.
All right, I'll talk with Reed. Reed's the one that's been working on this issue. So.
In the past, we've had concerns renting to private parties that the space becomes taxable. Is that an issue for you, Cindy?
Sorry, I was responding and not.
No. Oh, well, they were talking about a private individual renting part of the space at the Fiddlers Building, and that would that make that space taxable? Yeah. Is that a big deal?
We just charge them enough rent to cover the tax.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Before we do any of the moving in Fiddlers, though, I need to replace carpet, paint touch up, a little bit of work that will need to be done.
Some dings down the basement especially, but
Yeah.
let's look at what amount that rent would be. And then, where are we on vacating the Comexes so they can be?
Connexes are actually all empty. The only one that has some stuff in it is the Connex that we run our department, and it's pretty much a half-hour job and it's emptied. So all of them are actually capable of being moved at any time.
So, John or you, need to contact those areas that we talked about giving them to, and they need to arrange their own moving.
Yeah, I'll go and
friendly.
make that out. I've kind of talked to a couple of them, but I'll send them emails, let them know that they are
There you go,
available. But
Dale, you were getting one?
no, actually, they're getting 3. They're getting one of the 42 footers, or the smaller of the 42 footers, and then 2 of the 20 footers.
The road department is getting the other, the taller 42-footer, and then
The fair.
the fair's getting one. We're gonna put one somewhere to put our, because we still have the equipment that was in the white one. It has to go somewhere. And then, the planning and whatever. Natural, thank you.
One for their projects.
And that's gonna go out. And, we've talked with Preston, and he's gonna give us an area to put that, so.
And one of yours going down to search and rescue?
Actually, the plan will be to put 2 down there.
2?
We'll stack those with sandbags, ready for the public at any time.
And what, you need some leveling done up to jail for the one?
Yeah.
Did, was Maria still on the list?
Maria has never talked to me about it. I've talked to Maria a couple times.
We had the day that we were talking about it in
Yeah.
here, she texted me and said that she could use one for, if, I don't,
Where do we put it, Mike?
I'm not sure what she was, it was for something with parks and maintenance. I'm not.
We still may be okay. I can't remember the
Okay.
exact number of them right now.
And I texted her back and asked her to contact you and coordinate.
Gotcha.
So
The one that we're using is also, it will just be temporary until such time, because in the futures, we'll be talking about putting a shed or a garage out here.
Oh, wait a
and
minute,
that's what
we still have to give one to Canara, remember?
I did, but I'm sorry, I spent their money.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for me?
Well, if push comes to shove, we'll have to take one of search and rescue for Maria then. What do you think?
I think we might be, I had 5 small ones, so that's still okay. I think that's right.
That'll be enough for Maria.
Well, and you've got your one with your garage door in it too.
Yeah, that's one's going to, Wildland, so.
So we'll expect each department to pay their own moving fee.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah, and that's cost about
Preston needs
100.
to come do some leveling, I suppose we can accommodate that. No?
Oh, absolutely.
And Preston's been more than willing to help level.
But the move's on their schedule and on their budget.
But yeah, and that's.
Where does the park maintenance guy keep his trucks?
Right now, he's keeping them right there at the Fiddler's Building, or not the Fiddler's Building, but the Visitor Center.
Oh.
And so, I'm guessing if she puts one anywhere, it'll end up either at Woods Ranch or at the shooting range. Or I guess she could go out to Three Peaks as well, so.
Or you have it just in the parking lot?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know where.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know where she was thinking.
Okay.
As far as the buildings go, you did get my memo, didn't you? We need to drag the Justice Center building into this discussion also. It's a huge discussion of what we do with the Fiddler's building, right?
Yeah, sometime back, but
Yeah.
number one, let's look at the rent, the proposed rent that's gonna be generated.
Yeah. We actually went so far as to meet with the Water Conservancy and see if they would take that empty office as the office building, and they wouldn't even consider that.
They didn't want to move back.
They didn't want to move over there, darn it, so.
Well, let's look at your rent revenue. Then decide if we wanna be in the rental business or dispose of it.
Anything else?
Yeah, I've got some on county boards, if that's okay. now.
Okay.
I'll just make it in the form of a motion. I move that we reinstate Paul Nelson and Roden Williams as members of the weed board, give them another term. And they both agreed to that. And
Second name, Roden?
Roden Williams, R-O-D-E-N is the spelling of the first name. And Craig Lobb to be appointed to another term on Special Service District Number 3, which is the Special Service District that deals with the Secure Rural Schools funds. That's my motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll add a second one that we replace Tim Watson as a member of the Water Conservancy District, and we replace him with Heath Overson. That's the motion under county board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Mr. Chairman, I have one item just as a matter, just a point of information 5-county steering committee agreed that Iron County will, to support the proposition that Iron County will lease the Sitla land containing Canara Falls under Utah Code 72-5-105. It gives the county the authority to temporarily close or limit access to protected resources. It will close the area to motorized travel except for maintenance and culinary irrigation, water, and emergency purposes. And that's was approved by the steering committee to go to Sitla. So that's just an FYI.
Okay. Any other items?
We have the contract with Summit for the natural gas at the jail. We got to do a couple of tweaks to it because some of the dates aren't correct. Because they got 2017 instead of 18. But the clerk's office can do that, and then you can sign that before we leave today. Did you have any other?
But that was approved.
That was approved in our last meeting.
Approved
Yeah.
last meeting.
Yeah. So.
And the agreement appears to contemplate agreements with other entities.
Well,
Follow the mumbo jumbo that's
yeah, because Dominion still supplies it, so there is that agreement there between Summit and Dominion. Yeah.
And so we have to have that. Do we have to have another agreement?
The guys walking us through it, the ones that I sent you, those are the ones that have got to be done today. We need to do them today, so we're in a timeline. And then and then on one of them it said $6,500 was the upfront fee, and I questioned him on that, and he said, well, they put that in there because they had a couple of hookups that took a lot more, some other customers that took quite a bit more, but he said they averaged $4,700, so our bill is going to be somewhere in that range. Like we said $5,000, it's going to be somewhere in the range of $4,700. So anyway, and they actually pay, Summit actually pays us that amount, or pays that for us, and then they bill us without interest over the next 12 months. So they reduce the blow of that. But that's a one-time fee that's for hookups and everything, for the cost of the infrastructure. So.
Just for FYI, back to Canara Falls, we have been working with instant payments, and so that's all set up and ready to do like they have a Jubilee, a ticketing system where it will actually print something you can scan, and so that's all ready to go whenever.
Their anticipated start date was April 1st, if I'm not.
Guess what this says.
If I'm not confused.
We're already on our side.
Great.
According to the 5-county steering committee, also it says effective date of March 30, 2018. So it'd be in effect for the 1st of April.
Okay. Any other items?
Move the approval of move. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
Is that the contract?
And we have a 130 with BLM.
That's just what I put,
Iron
a
County,
Utah
Utah.
political subdivision. I think actually I saw another thing how that. Anyway, this is
Got it.
18 here. And
This is your junk, isn't it?
Oh, how no, that's been
anyway,
sitting for a while.
That shit's my scrap on there. So I don't know what that is.
Really? I think it was.
You said you sent this to me.
I don't know.
That's a long time.
I think you were copied on it. Oh, it all- hey.
You can't get rid of me.
And then that needs to be
I can't get rid of
That's why I come back.
18.
Called Dwayne Jarvis.
I'm gonna take it back.
Dwayne Jarvis.
Are you?
I hope. I'll give it.
Yeah.
Give him, huh?
How much?
I'll touch him.
Oh,
I told him
794.
my virus.
Well,
You're the touchy guy, man. I'm just sitting there and you come up and give me a hug.
Some of this.
Okay.
And I think
Well, we're not in any big crash now anyway.
I don't have
It's
my
just
phone, but
happening.
Need to fix
got
that
it.
box.
Did you look it up? You didn't look it up.
Duh.
429.
So they agreed to pay half on the.
No, I did not look up
See?
hugs.
Anyway, like I said,
Well,
Hard. What are the
and I put here,
I've actually got a commission question
had
for
me
you.
here, so I was dealing with
Right, right.
The Children's Justice Center.
My county device.
did we have more than that one big bill?
Process of getting
Lynn's.
dropped lines to their property.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But it was the
It's about 1350
restrict
then,
us down.
47 or something like that.
Use your phone. That's what I did.
I didn't think they'd pay half. He said, no, well,
Kind of a holdup.
You gotta have your own phone.
good
You
man,
got a
Charlie Brown.
computer at home, don't
We
even
need
tell
to
me.
resolve that. If you have any ideas, will you give me a
Oh,
call?
Mr. Hale.
Thanks.
Trying to tell him how good hugs are.
You got access to.
It even says on the internet
Well-
how good they are and what it does to
Hell
you.
no, they probably don't.
There's a proviso here, dude. It depends on who the hell it's coming from.
This is online.